This conference will now be recorded.
And welcome everybody to the, what is it, 24th? Yep, the 24th of November, high risk recurrent advanced prostate cancer video chat support group. And we got a big crew, so we need to get started. We're already 15 minutes in, my gosh. Right. So I think that the three new people are Billy Newton, Ben Nathanson, and Regina. And so let's start. Let's see if Ben got his microphone working. Did you get your microphone working, Mr. N?
We will see. No, it looks like I have not.
You
can
have.
hear me,
Perfect.
right?
Absolutely perfect. You're crystal clear.
Oh.
I can hear you.
Good. I'm an engineer, so these things should work.
Here's good work indeed. Here's what we're going to ask you to do, Ben. Take about 5 to 10 minutes just to give us your background, your age, where you live, where you're treated, who your doctors are, where you are in this journey. And forgive me if the word journey offends anybody. I know on some of the cancer boards, people don't like that word. I happen to like it, so I use it. Because we're here to try and flatten the path and make the journey much easier for you. And just let us know if you've got any questions in mind, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I'm 65. I live in Teaneck, New Jersey. I had a prostatectomy last February 2019. I qualify, I think, for this meeting as a Gleason 8. With a twist, I have ductal adenocarcinoma, which is a rare variant.
Yep.
Believed to be aggressive, though. You see all kinds of contradictory papers on it. I'm seeing doctors at MSK, and I'm excited. I'm scheduled for a PSMA PET scan, and I'm very happy that kind of scan is available because it addresses my big fear, which is that, well, okay, I skipped a step. My PSA has gone up, and I'm scheduled for salvage radiation. It's now 0.24, which is just the limit where they will start using the PSMA PET. The PSMA PET will see stuff, and I'm hoping it will see white dots, and that the salvage radiation will actually not just be a buckshot, but will actually be able to hit some tumors. I used to be an engineer. I retired in April. I worked for IBM. I helped build the world's fastest computers. That's something that doesn't last very long. When you're the fastest computer, you have about 6 months till someone else is the fastest computer. Believe it or not, there are people who are hell-bent on building one faster and faster and faster. Was there anything else in my preview that I left out?
You know, we have a serious heritage with IBM, because one of our actually pre-AnCan founders, but one of our founders that helped us start these video groups, who was very dear to us, to me personally, and I'm not sure, Len isn't on the call today. I don't even know how well Peter remembers Dominic, but he was also a lifelong IBMer. How, I'll never know, because he was the least diplomatic person I've ever run across. And his wife, Cecilia Morasi, is still a very senior executive at IBM. I think she runs partnerships with some huge organizations. And if you look at some of the pictures on our headings, you'll see pictures of Dom and myself. So we always welcome IBMers on this call, and it makes us think of Dom, and we love to think of Dom. So, what was your PSA before? I've got to switch this off. Okay, sorry about that. I should have turned that off beforehand. What was your PSA when you were diagnosed?
7.
And what caused that diagnosis?
Oh gosh. It's not as if I wasn't looking at my PSA. I had, or didn't care about my PSA. I had a needle biopsy in 2014 because my PSA was just above the margin, and the urologist was being very careful. So I had an old-fashioned needle biopsy, and it was negative. And he said, you know what? He said, don't pay attention to your PSA for a few years. Famous last words. So I did not pay attention to my PSA. It hovered just above 4. And I figured, oh, you know, why should I see a urologist? This is just what he was talking about. You know, however, I was having more and more trouble peeing. Saw a neurologist, and a digital rectal exam. He immediately saw something was amiss.
Okay, that's good. And I should also add that you have a number of New Jerseyites. Is that what I should call you? New Jerseyites? New Jerseyans?
Yeah.
New Jerseys, maybe just New Jerseys. You have a number of New Jerseys on this call. We have Peter Monaco, and we have Carl Foreman, and anybody else? We don't have.
I grew up in Bridgeton, Ben, which I think is pretty close to Teaneck, if I remember correctly.
What county is that?
Cumberland?
Oh no.
Am I wrong?
No, I'm up in Bergen County, near New York City.
Okay.
And I had a 30-year sojourn at Rutgers.
You taught?
Yep.
Yes.
What was your subject? What did you teach?
Taught pharmacology and neurology.
So,
Medical.
I think that they're right on the ball. Who is your? First of all, are you in New Jersey in the city, or are you in Monmouth Hills?
I'm going to the Montvale MSK.
Here's computer guys.
The Montvale MSK. Is that the same? Forgive me. This is testing my geographical knowledge in New Jersey. Is that the same as Monmouth Hills?
No. Montvale is just grazing the New York line.
Yep, right. And so I'm not that familiar with the Montvale facility. What sort of doctor are you seeing there? Who's your quarterback?
So I had initially gotten assigned to a radiation oncologist. I guess they knew ahead of time I was going to need that. It's Boris Mueller. And I have and I have just been assigned my medical oncologist, who's Andrew Lassetti.
Couple of things. Just a couple of comments. We like Boris. He was Len's doc. Len's not on the call, as you heard today, but he was Len's doc. Len liked him a lot. One thing that we have found, and maybe I don't know if, I can't remember if this was true of Carl, but it's true of other New Jerseyites we've had on the call, is that they're not as happy with their genitourinary medical oncologists at the satellite facilities as they are in the city. And if it were me, I'd get on the old PATH train and then go up to First Avenue, up to 58th Street or 59th Street, whatever it is, and I would see one of the GU med oncs there. And in the long run, I think you might be happy. And once you've seen one, if you haven't seen one yet, I think you can switch. Larry Fish just arrived just in time because he's one of our MSKCC guys. So he may have an opinion on this.
On what? I just finished creating homework for my students.
Okay, so sorry. On whether you should be seen at a satellite MSKCC facility or whether you should come into the city, and how difficult it is to switch from one doc to another if you're at a satellite facility.
I started out at the main facility in Manhattan, MSKCC. Then for blood tests, for Lupron shots, Eligard shots, I go to a local satellite site or an infusion center in Brooklyn. And I haven't tried to switch docs at Sloan. I don't know how easy it is. I suspect it's not that easy. I think they're a little reluctant. When I discuss with my doc, Karen Audio, if she discusses my case, my situation, like in some kind of rounds with the other GU oncologists, they have a number. She says not in general. People only bring up cases when there's something very interesting for everybody to work on. That she handles my case herself and not in combination with some of the other great ones that are there. But I'm pretty happy with her. When I want to see her, we're doing televisits. But for scans and things like scans, and I go in directly to the Manhattan site right now for the last 9 months. Parking has not been difficult. I reserve a parking spot using Icon Parking Reserve. It's not expensive, $15, $20, whatever it costs. Even if it's bone scans that require 3 or 4 hours, it's not a problem to get a spot, and it's not very expensive. So I'm glad because I drive in my car and I go directly to the parking spot. I don't interact on public transportation. I'm doing the same for the Brooklyn infusion site, but it wouldn't be necessary. If I had to, I could take a subway. I prefer not to. I don't know if that answers what I can say. My experience is not that broad.
I think it's very helpful. What about Peter? Because aren't you an MSKCC guy, Mr. Monaco?
Yes, I am. I go exclusively to the place in Basking Ridge. It's right off of 78. My oncologist is a lady named Han Shao. I'm considering switching. I feel comfortable with her. She seems to really know her stuff. I've gone to Sloan for things like MRIs and CAT scans. Bone scans, they tell you to go where you want to go and they read them. I'm reluctant to change, frankly. We were talking, Rick, about maybe me going to see Dr. O, but I just don't want to go into the city right now with COVID, and I'm stable right now, so I've been staying where I am.
Right.
So, but I've been with Sloan since 2015, and overall, I think they've been doing the right by me.
Right. Anyone else have experience with the satellite versus the central facility, Carl?
Yes, Sloan Kettering was one of my second opinion locations before I ultimately decided to be treated at the Rutgers Cancer Institute. And I met with Dr. Zhao at Basking Ridge, and my initial thought was I wasn't really quite comfortable with her. And Rick and some other people mentioned another doctor who the name escapes me, that was very highly regarded. And when I asked to make an appointment with that doctor, they said, Dr. Zhao can answer all of your questions. They would not allow me to switch doctors. I then decided, okay, I don't need MSK. I'm in good hands at Rutgers Cancer Institute.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. So the only reason we raise it is because if it's very early in the game, you may be able to switch. I don't know this guy's name. It's not a name that's familiar to us. We generally, it's very hard to get an appointment. It's impossible to get a appointment with Howard Scher anymore, unless you're one of his patients. Michael Morris, it's very difficult, but we have people who are with him. We may be able to help you. We may not if you were interested. The accessible doc who we do like is Dana Rathkopf in the city, Rathkopf, Dana Rathkopf. We felt that she's very compassionate, she's accessible. And if it were me, I think that I would rather have a doc in the central facility than somebody in the satellite. So you didn't ask us, and advice is only worth what you pay for it, but I just wanted to raise that right up front. Now, the other issue that I would like to throw out to the group is that, yes, ductal adenocarcinoma is pretty rare. I think it's like 1 or 2%. And I've seen it before. We've had people before, but not for a long time. I don't know a heck of a lot about it, but it does tend to have a more aggressive profile. And that's one of the reasons why, if it were me, I would rather be seen at the central facility. Because those guys in the central facility have much easier access to the Howard Schers and the Michael Morrises. And excuse me, the Karen Audios. Excuse me, Mr. Fish. Anybody have any comments for Ben regarding ductal adenocarcinoma? No? Nobody has anything to say about Herb? You're searching for that switch. Come
Right,
green.
well, I'm searching. I can't add anything at this point, Rick. It's new to me.
Okay.
Rick, it's David Muslin. Can you educate us? Can you educate me on what that is?
Not very well, but I'll do the best that I can. I'm just putting it in the chat window. Jim asked if I would do that. Ductal adenocarcinoma. So is that going to go to everybody? Let me just see. Yes, that should go to everybody. Hold on a minute. Okay, so it is a form of prostate cancer that gets caught up in certain ducts that come in and out of the prostate. Now, Mr. Geller, Dr. Geller, excuse me, Professor, and I don't have Len, so you're the man today. Professor, are there ducts that come in and out of the prostate?
I am furiously reading as we speak. And basically, it's very similar to pancreatic carcinoma in terms of its sort of types of genetics, at least what I'm picking up right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to learn more.
Right. Do you, but from the standpoint of the physiology, there are ducts that come in and out of the prostate?
Right.
Right.
Right. The other thing that in this case of Ben, it's a carcinoma that doesn't have very high PSA.
Right.
So I think really that's what got you. That's what got you.
Right. That's I was going to mention that. Dr. Mark.
Yeah. My understanding is when they use this term, it's not referring to things like vas deferens ejaculatory duct and things like that, but the cells organize themselves to look like ducts. So I think it's an appearance of
Okay.
the tumor growth rather than necessarily the location on ductal structures within the prostate. That's my understanding, but the significance of it, I'm not sure. Are you seeing something different, Herb?
Well,
No.
what I'm seeing is that it basically, ductal means the structure of the way the cells are organized.
Right.
As a column or epithelium with certain kinds of structural features that make it called ductal, but it isn't because of it's a duct. I agree.
Okay.
There is, in fact, a different intraductal prostate cancer, and that must be stuff that's really in the duct.
That's what I was
Well,
thinking of. Yeah.
It's probably a different cellular origin.
So can you educate us, Ben, about ductal adenocarcinoma?
Those are the only things I know. I think I've said that it has a weak correlation with PSA. So I am really glad they have the PSMA PET, and that it's got the columnar pseudostratified epithelial cells. I forced myself to look at the histology, but so I know what it looks like, but I don't know what that means. It's very interesting, very helpful to know that it looks like a duct, and that's why it's called ductal. Other than that, because it's a sneak, because people present very late in the game because of the PSA problem, I don't know whether that's why it's regarded as aggressive. What I was lucky, there were clean margins, there was no lymph nodes. So maybe I'll have more luck.
Ben, did they say anything with this tumor not being as aggressively producing PSA? We know that people who have very low PSAs, the PSMA scan seems to be less effective and less sensitive. Did they speak to you about whether the scan would be as reliable in this situation?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Yes, if the PSA is weakly correlated, maybe the PSMA is going to be equally weakly correlated, and so it's not going to be a helpful scan. It's very possible.
The other thing that I think I would have a good chat with Dr. Muller about is, or whichever genitourinary medical oncologist. I'm assuming the guy that you've been assigned to considers himself to be a genitourinary medical oncologist. Is that correct, or is he just a general? He does.
Yes.
So, either him or whoever, whether they think it might be wiser to wait until the PSA gets a little bit higher, maybe north of 0.6 or 0.65, before they do the PSMA scan.
Yes, I wondered about that.
So I do have another question for Ben. Did they do any genetics on your tumor or on you?
Not yet. I'm going to push for it because there seems to be, high correlation with certain kinds of genes, and at least one paper said that genetic that immunotherapy might be very fruitful for this kind of cancer.
So were you treated at MSKCC from the get-go, or just after your PSA got to 4?
I had my prostatectomy at Hackensack Hospital.
Okay. And
then,
so they might have the tissue which will allow you to do genetics.
Yeah, I will, and they'll have somatic tissue from the PSMA PET if that produces anything.
Well, they would if it was enough to be able to biopsy it. But in a situation like yours, there might be small amounts, and they may be difficult to get at. That's
Mm.
always an issue. I think this is an excellent point Herb has raised. What's your family cancer history, Ben?
My father had it at 70. He did not die of it. He had something else that was worse. But whether he had ductal or something else is lost in the midst of time.
Did he have a different type of cancer?
He died of a neurological thing, the thing that progressive supranuclear palsy.
Yes, that is worse.
See, we have all kinds. Our brains trust has tentacles everywhere. What about elsewhere in the family? I mean, do you have any history of other types of cancer in the family?
My father's father died of colon cancer.
Okay. So, you know, there is a link between, as Peter Kafka will tell you, there is a link between colon cancer and prostate cancer, Lynch syndrome. And, you know, one thing you might want to start with, which is just easy to do, is an inherited genomic test for germline mutations, which is basically just a spit test, or it can be a blood test. And you can do that definitely through MSKCC. And I would say to them, look, my grandfather had colon cancer, my dad had prostate cancer, I've got prostate cancer, and tell them you want to test for what's called Lynch syndrome, Lynch, Lynch syndrome, and see if you have that sort of mutation. I have no idea, without doing any research, whether ductal adenocarcinoma has any association with the mutations in Lynch syndrome or not. But I think that's a great suggestion, and that's a good starting point. And in the meantime, yes, you know, if that doesn't show anything, then go on and you can do a somatic test. I mean, I know that MSKCC doesn't send their tests, certainly their somatic tests, they do not send out. Somatic, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, mutations that your body makes itself, that the tumor makes itself. You haven't inherited them. Things in your lifestyle, in your environment, in just your own body have caused those mutations to happen. And those sort of mutations have to be analyzed from tumor material or from your blood, one or the other. But the inherited mutations can be done from something as simple as a spit test. So we've given you a couple of things to think about.
I have one other thing, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ben, I noticed that Basking Ridge offers both the gallium-68 and the 18F-PYL PSMA scans. Did they mention which one, or did they give you a choice of which one that you might have?
I think this will be gallium-68.
Okay, I've had both. I had a gallium-68 in San Francisco, and I had a PYL scan at Stanford. I think the PYL scan is a little more sensitive. I don't know which one's going to be approved, or whether they'll both be approved next month or whenever after the first of the year. But if you can push for the PYL scan, you might get better sensitivity. That's been my experience. But I think they're both effective for sure. And they're both far beyond anything else that's available. But I noticed that they are both being done at Basking Ridge.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd endorse that. You know, see if you can get Boris or whoever it is to get you into the PYL trial rather than the gallium trial, because the PYL is definitely right now probably the best that's available.
Wow. Wow. I'm surprised. I'm surprised they didn't mention that. So this is PYL, Peter Yankee Lima.
Yeah,
Yes,
18F.
18F DCFPyL.
Yeah. Peter, would you put it in the chat window? So,
Okay.
yeah, 18F DCFPyL would be the scan of first choice for you, Ben.
Thank you.
Ben, do we have an email address for you?
Yes, I see the, probably not. I'll send you a private reply.
If you put it in the chat box, you can send it just to Rick, and then we'll make sure you're on the mailing list for
Yeah.
future meetings.
Very good.
How did you hear about us, Ben?
So I had gone to the S2 meetings, the local S2 meetings in Bergen County, run by Joe Cavalli, and they were great, but they haven't gone virtual. And I really wanted to connect with my brothers in arms.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're very glad to have you. We meet every week, as you've probably seen. Usually on the first and third Mondays and the second and fourth Tuesdays.
So that's the same group. The Monday and
Yeah.
Tuesday nights are the same people.
Yes, we're all the same people, but when this first started, there were people like Dom, God rest his soul, who said, oh, I'm so tired, I can't stay up till 10 o'clock at night back east. We need an earlier meeting. And that's how the Tuesday meeting came about originally. It was Dom and a few other people. But here's some breaking news, and I will repeat it again. And my thanks, my hat is off to Peter Monaco for this. Next month, December, is another one of those screwy months where the first Monday is immediately followed by the second Tuesday. So we are switching our December meeting to third and, hold on a second, I've got to get this right. No, we're switching it to first and third Tuesdays. It will come in writing. December 1st and December 1st and December 15th will be our Tuesday meeting dates. Jake, could you put that in the chat window, please? December 1st and December 15th will be our Tuesday meeting dates, so that we don't have two meetings on successive days. Okay, we'll move on. We lost Billy Newton, but he did write to me, so I'll drop him a line and see if I can help him. But Regina, you got the picture now, and we'd like to hear from you about your husband and see how we can help you.
I muted her earlier. Now she needs to unmute herself.
Can you unmute yourself, Regina? The green button. There you
There
go.
she goes.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yep.
can hear you now. You don't, Regina, you don't want to get on the wrong side of the chief muter.
I noticed that.
Okay.
I
good.
will behave if you behave yourself.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the
Okay.
group. How did you
This
hear?
whole this whole cancer is new to us.
Oh,
Let me
dear.
give you a little history of Russell.
Yeah.
Let's start with his grandmother. His mother's mother died of colon cancer, and that's the only history of cancer in his family at all, period. Russell himself has been healthy his entire life. He is 76 years old, has never, ever had a childhood disease, has never been ill, has never been hospitalized until this year. And his PSA had been steady and stable, 3.0 and under for the last 10 years. So his PSA was not a real indicator. In May of this past year, May of 2020, he had trouble urinating. And when he couldn't urinate for the third day in a row, I found a urologist who took him immediately who catheterized him, thank God, and helped that problem. But because he catheterized him, he noticed that his prostate was a bit enlarged and overgrowing the urethra. And as a result, he had to be scheduled for surgery. But it took a month to get into the hospital because of COVID. So at the end of May, the surgical procedure was performed and removed the excess prostate around the urethra, which resolved the urinating problem. And they did an automatic biopsy. The results of the biopsy showed a Gleason 9 and a stage 4 prostate cancer. No indicators in the last 10 years of anything, of any kind, no illnesses, nothing. And yet he's got stage 4. So come June, he was immediately referred to an oncologist who gave him his first Lupron shot in June. And in July, put him on a drug called Xtandi. And then October, he had his first shot for, the problem with his stage 4 isn't just, it's no longer in his prostate, it metastasized to his bones, including his spinal column and his rib cage. So come September, he began getting shots of, I believe it's called Xgeva, which supports the bones. So like I said, this is new to us. We are working our way uphill. I have decided to put him, the oncologist didn't really want to talk about nutrition or anything like that. So I did some research, and he is now on a, we removed sugar and caffeine from his diet and red meat from his diet. So now he's basically on a plant-based diet that I put him on, based on information I received from chat rooms from other people with prostate cancer and what worked for them, in order to try and keep the cancer from being fed, I guess is the word. So he's basically, because of his treatments and his different drugs, he's on what's it called? They're removing his entire testosterone. And that is making, and that is a problem because he has hot flashes nonstop to the point where he gets no rest. I mean, it wakes him up constantly in a complete sweat. And then when he's done with the hot flash, he gets chilled severely. So he's unable to get rested. So he's napping right now because his hot flashes have phased out a bit temporarily. That is the big problem we're having right now with his hot flashes. And of course, the stage 4 having metastasized is a significant issue for us. And we need to know what we can do to keep it under control. Right. Whatever we can do, we will.
So it's a familiar story. Sadly, when I say familiar, the side effects that he's complaining from are a familiar story. It's not a familiar story that he had such a low PSA for so many years, and then was found to be metastatic. What was his, two questions, first of all, what was his PSA right before he was diagnosed?
3.1.
Okay. And was that Gleason 9 a 4+5 or a 5+4?
I believe 5+4.
Okay. So, and where are you based? Where do you live, Regina?
We currently live in Florida, in near the Tampa area.
In the Tampa area. And what type of doctor is, who is the oncologist that's supervising his treatment now? Is it a local community practice oncologist, or is
it's an oncologist with a group called the Florida Cancer Specialist? Her name is Gail Wright, and she seems to be very good. We went for a second opinion at my request to what's the cancer place? Morphed Cancer Center in Tampa. Yeah. And they confirmed that his treatment is appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question his treatment is appropriate. It bothers me a little bit that she's not willing to talk to you about important issues like diet and exercise. I think that was the red flag that set off. I mean, we do strongly recommend, if you can find one, to use a genitourinary medical oncologist. That means a medical oncologist who specializes in genitourinary cancers like prostate cancer. It can make a huge difference. At the same time, she's basically treating your husband with the correct standard of care that we're aware of through the NCCN guidelines. And what we now need to see is how well he responds. There are some good docs at Moffitt.
Let me tell you who he saw at Moffitt. He saw Dr. Jad, J-A-D Chowdhury, who is the top prostate cancer specialist at Moffitt, who confirmed that Dr. Wright is doing the appropriate procedures.
Yeah, I mean.
And I've been working with some other specialists relative to the diet and the exercise. And let me tell you my history. I'm familiar with medical processes because, number one, I was a case manager for 15 years in the medical field. Number two, 21 years ago, I had a brain bleed, an aneurysm in the right basal ganglia, so I'm hemiplegic. And I have survived the 21 years, despite the fact the average survival rate of the bleed in my location is 7 years. And I've done that through diet and exercise and moderate medications.
Have you watched the prostate cancer diet webinars? We have 2 of them on this website.
Not yet. Give me the name of the webinars.
So if you just go to AnCan.org and you put in either diet or nutrition, you'll find 2 webinars. One of them was very recent by a woman called Natalie Ledesma, Ledesma. Maybe somebody will put the links to both of them in the chat window for you.
That would be nice.
The other one was done about 3 years ago with Greta McCare. Both of those women trained with each other at UCSF, and one of them is still at UCSF. They are very good and worthwhile watching.
Thank you for that. I will do that. I have been on your AnCan website, the American Cancer Society website, and I downloaded and printed out a bunch of recipes that are recommended for prostate cancer.
Right.
Or for cancer in general.
Yeah.
And I'm working with those.
And there's a UCSF diet and nutrition for prostate cancer book pamphlet. It's about 40 pages long. You can download it, and there's a bunch of recipes in the back of that. But we can help you with that. But let me first of all throw this one out to the group with a specific question for you, as what have people found as good remedies to manage the hot flashes?
Oh, please, that would be miraculous at this point, because none of the drugs the doctor has recommended or has put them on work at all. Nothing at all. Nothing works. We keep the house cool, and I keep a fan above the bed to cool him down when it has one, but that's all we've got right now. What I'm doing is trying to get him to drink more liquids, more water, to help cool his system down. Again, the caffeine and sugar should help, but who knows? At this point, I can't tell.
Okay, guys, so what suggestions do you fellas have? Of course, I've got a couple up my sleeve, but I'd rather they come from you. Anybody? Where's David Muslin? David Muslin, you had all those problems with hot flashes.
I knew you were going to call on me, Rick. I knew you were calling me. To be honest with you, it's diet and exercise, but more than that, it's time to get used to it. I got used to it. And I've been on Lupron now for 9 months, and I've gotten used to it. It's just there, and I take it and I live with it. And one thing I figured out recently actually is I love to sleep under heavy sheets, and the heavy sheets capture the heat, and I get hotter. So if I sleep with a little lighter blanket, they're not so intense at nighttime, and I don't wake up as much. That's a more recent tip that I've just come up with actually, but it's there. And if you can use, this is going to sound really crazy, but if you use a little imagery and think of the hot flashes, this is helping me. This is going to help my cancer a lot. it's easier to put up with. That's what's helped me, believe it or not.
Can I just respond to that, please? Russ has been
Yes,
having
ma'am.
hot flashes since June and nothing works and he's miserable. Nothing works. He's tried the imagery. We have light sheets, a light blanket, which he can take off and on, but he's still being woken up. So as a result, he's not rested.
Okay, so Regina, I am personally very familiar with this. I did 28 months and I had a miserable time with hot flashes. So I'm very, very empathetic. Dr. Mark puts in the chat window venlafaxine, which again, that's a drug I am super familiar with and had already been on it for many years before I got sick, with cancer, that is. And unfortunately, it didn't help me much, but I do know that it does help some people.
It's not helping Russ. I'm sorry, but he's been on it for months. It's not helping at all.
Okay, so anybody else before I throw out a couple more suggestions? Yes, John.
Yeah.
John.
I don't know. This is not a personal story, but a buddy of mine here who's having severe problems with hot flashes got put on gabapentin. I don't know.
He's on gabapentin. Again, it's not helping. I'm sorry, gentlemen. We are.
Okay, just hold your fire, Regina. We'll keep coming at you, and then you can come back to us at the end because we got to get.
Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't interrupt, but I have a bad habit of taking over.
Lou, go ahead.
I was just going to recommend, and don't laugh, medical marijuana has really helped me quite a bit.
Okay, and we're not laughing. I mean, it's definitely an option. Anyone else? Anyone else want to tell us how they've managed their hot flashes? All right. If we're exhausted, I'll come up with a couple more for you.
Well, what about an estrogen patch?
Who? What? I didn't understand that. What about a what?
What about, I think there's some evidence that an estrogen, transdermal estrogen at a low level, might actually help.
Right. So that's a good suggestion, transdermal estrogen. If you want to go one step below that, you can think about megastrol,
He's on megastrol.
Okay, well, he shouldn't be on all these things at the same time. No wonder he's sleeping all the time. Is the doctor aware that he's taking all these things all at the same time?
Absolutely. I give her a sheet every time he goes to see her. I'm not allowed to go with him, so I'm out of the picture there because of COVID.
It gives me some concern that he's on venlafaxine. I would be concerned if it was venlafaxine. He's on Megace, and he's on gabapentin. My goodness. So the megastrol didn't work for him. What about Depo-Provera?
Don't know that. That's a new one. Spell that, please.
Depot, D-E-P-O-T, Provera, P-R-O-V-E-R-A.
No T. No T.
And it's supposed to be a lot safer than the Megace, than the Megastrol. But now I'm going to give you the zinger. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Acupuncture. Has he done that?
He's afraid of needles, and he gets a monthly blood test with his kit hard.
Is he more afraid of needles than not sleeping?
Yes. The reason is, as a child, he had a needle injected into his arm when he was like 6 years old, and it broke off, and they had to dig it out. And apparently it was a bad procedure. So he's afraid of needles.
Okay, well, then you've got us. I mean, we've had several guys who have had awful problems. I think of a guy out of California who's not on the call today. But I can tell you that the acupuncture will help him. And these are
I will tell him. I will suggest
needles.
if he'll
They're
do
like
it.
pins.
I am hopeful though, because he had a PET scan in June, and he just had another PET scan, and it showed that the cancer did not progress. and it seemed to be a little bit under control based on the drugs he's using.
Regina, did the TURP procedure solve his urinary issue? Is he able to urinate now fine? And he doesn't have
A TURP procedure, I don't understand that. He had genetics done. It is not a genetic condition, even though his grandmother died of colon cancer.
Okay, well,
he said he was having urinary problems, and they performed a procedure to clear the obstruction, and from that they did that was the biopsy that they did. So
Correct.
that's called a TURP,
Okay.
which is clearing out the urethra. Is he able to? Did that solve his urinary issues? Is he able to?
Oh yes, it worked perfectly.
Okay.
okay. So couple of things. One is, I think probably what they told you, I'm just guessing, is that he doesn't have any inherited cancer issues.
That is correct. His genetics showed not inherited.
Right. So but that doesn't mean he doesn't have genetic and genomic issues. In other words, he may have somatic mutations that are actionable. We don't know that yet because we haven't tested for that yet. So don't rule out in your mind that there are no mutations. All we know is he hasn't inherited any mutations. That's different. That's
Well, we also assume that because he doesn't have any genetic inherited mutations, his son won't get it. We're hoping.
okay. That is not true for prostate cancer.
Meaning?
It's true. In other words, you don't necessarily see the common mutations around prostate cancer. There are some mutations that make you more likely to pass it on, but there are many people where the children have mutations, have prostate cancer, and the fathers don't have an identifiable inherited gene. So his kids need to watch out. Okay, very important for everybody on the call. You got sons, they're over 35. They should get their PSA tested.
He's 50, so we'll have to have him do that.
Absolutely, he absolutely should be monitoring his PSA age 50 on a regular basis. Really, really important if you can get your boys to do that. Peter, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I have both, Regina. I've done both kinds of testing, and I have both a germline test, and I have two sons in their mid-40s, and they know that they've got a proclivity. And I've also got a somatic BRCA mutation that I'm being treated for. But that said, only about 15% of men do have a genetic driver for their prostate cancer. Most men, the far greater majority, 85% of us, don't have a genetic driver in this game. I would just say, I know you're happy with Gail as your oncologist, but in a little bit of research I just did, I think she's pretty much a general oncologist, medical oncologist. In your situation, if it was me, I mean, I can't give you medical advice here, but if it was me, and I've been dealing with my situation for 6 years, I was blessed, when I was blindsided 6.5 years ago, somehow miraculously I found my way, I live in Hawaii, to California, to a man that specializes just in prostate cancer. And he's been with me for 6.5 years now, and he saved my life essentially. And you don't need to see a genitourinary medical oncologist every month. You can go every 3 months. You can do it online or whatever. But your husband's going to be in this for a while. This is not a curable disease. He's going to be going through different treatments. He's going to probably build up resistance to the drug he is on now, the extended, and he might have to go on something else, and he might need other kinds of treatment. He probably will. And you want an oncologist who's really up to date, because this field is changing as we speak. New things are being approved and invented and discovered as we speak. And you want an oncologist who's really on the cutting edge here. So if it was me, I would probably find someone at Moffitt who can work with you. Again, you don't need to see them every week or anything, but
Yeah, and Peter, can I just add to that? Regina, has the doctor talked to you at all about treating the prostate gland?
No.
Well, the new, the more recent and modern approach to treating prostate cancer, which is very different to how it was treated even 5 years ago, is that we do try to treat the gland, and either with surgery or with radiation, and it ought to be raised with her. And if she says no, we don't do it when it's out the prostate, she ain't the right doc, because she's not keeping up with the literature. If you talk to the men who are on this call today who were diagnosed with a whole gland that had not been treated, most of them will tell you that they have since had some sort of treatment to the prostate gland after they were diagnosed metastatic. Either they're getting it right now, they've gotten it before, a few with surgery, several with radiation.
And what happens to the rest of the body that's infected with the cancer?
Okay, we've got to move on. I'm so sorry. I've got to cut you off. We've only got 50 minutes left and we've got to get around everybody. Come on in next time. We'll talk more and we'll talk about the treatment. But the systemic treatment that he's getting right now, namely the enzalutamide and the Lupron, is supposed to should be addressing that. It's questionable, again, whether abiraterone or enzalutamide is the right drug. We tend to think abiraterone is a better drug initially than enzalutamide. Doesn't make the enzalutamide wrong. But I'm sorry, we just have to move on because we've got 20 odd people on the call and we've got to get around them. Okay. But keep on coming back. There's a lot of good information on this call. If we don't have your email address, please email it please put it in the chat window, or send it to info@ancan.org, and that way you'll get a reminder before each meeting.
You have my email, so we're good.
Terrific. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do the roll call now and see who needs time. We are going to have to cut this today at quarter after 8 if you're back east, 6:15 where I am. Because we have the MS people coming into the room at 8:30. All right, Jake, anything you'd like to talk about today?
No, thank you.
Okay, Peter, anything you'd like to talk about?
I'll pass. Is my sound okay?
Not great.
No,
Oh, no.
It's a little muddy.
very fuzzy.
Turn down the volume.
That might be it.
Okay. Dennis McGuire, Dennis M, anything for you?
Yes, I have an update on the clinical trial.
Terrific. Ken Anderson, I think we should talk about the appeal process. There may be something, there may not, but I'm sticking you in for a quick talk about appealing insurance. John, anything for you? John A?
Nope, I'll pass today, thanks.
Okay. Joel, my buddy Joel, are you still with, you went out, did you come back? Yes, you came back.
Yes, I have a question for you.
Okay, Joel, I've got to put together some response to that us two meeting. It was a fiasco. Lou, anything you'd like to talk about today?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Dr. Mark, anything for you?
I have a quick question.
Okay. Dennis C, anything for you?
Nothing, Rick. Thank you.
Okay. Jim, anything? Jim W, anything for you?
No, Rick, thank you.
Les, anything for you?
No, thanks, Rick.
Herb, anything for you?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Rusty, anything for you?
Yeah, I've got probably 4 or 5 minutes.
Ooh, 4 or 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot for me.
It is. Jim B, anything for you?
I have a 30-second update.
Okay. Peter M, anything for you?
I had one quick question, not critical.
Okay. John I, anything for you?
Yes, quick question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carl, anything for you?
Yes, update.
Okay. Frank, anything for you? Well, your mic's on, but you're showing green, but we can't hear you. So you may have that same problem. Go to the settings window and make sure you've got the right mic selected. I'll come back to you. Jerry, anything for you?
No, thank you. Not tonight.
David, anything for you?
No, thank you, Rick.
And Larry, anything for you? Mr. Fish. Oh, he's probably gone for a cup of tea. Let me see here. Frank. No, we can't hear you, Frank. So sorry. Can't hear you. Put it in the chat window. If you've got something, put it in the chat window. You may have to come in and out. I don't know why, but you're talking, but we're not hearing through your microphone. So let me move through because we've got a lot of guys to cover and not a lot of time. So we'll do the best that we can and we'll keep going till 1:15. And just a quick reminder, if you have anything really urgent that you do want to be sure to get raised, please give me a heads up ahead of time to rd@ancan.org or info@ancan.org. And so that way I'll know, because as you see, when we get new people and we have a lot of people, it's tough to get around everybody. Let's start with Dennis M. Dennis, how you doing? Tell us about your update.
Yes, so last week I had my 4-week progress report with the clinical trial. I'm sorry to say that the PSA did not respond. In fact, my PSA increased. When I started trial, my PSA was 15, and last week it was 35. So concerning. And as I think about it, the other treatments that I've had, I've responded within the first month. So that would include Lupron, docetaxel, Xtandi. In 2 weeks, I will have a bone scan and a CT scan to see if the lesions are responding, despite the fact the PSA is going up. So I'm open to any recommendations or suggestions on how to think about this.
What is the response from Dr. Lang, and have you run it past Mike Morris?
So I have not run it past Mike Morris because I don't really want to sound the alarm. Dr. Lang is saying that don't always expect a response in the first month. And he used the example of Xtandi. When Xtandi went through clinical trial, which he was involved in, there were many patients who did not respond in the first month. So his recommendation is for me to trust the process, go through scans in 2 weeks, and then make a decision at that point.
Okay, we'll throw this out to the guys, but I have one suggestion to you, which is I think if it were me, I would be looking to have an agreement and an understanding with Dr. Lang at what point you're going to accept that you need to move on. And I think the earlier you have that conversation with him, the better you are. So you can say, you know, when my PSA hits, bop, whatever the number is, are we agreed? I've got to look, I've got to move on. And I think it's not a bad thing. Say, fine, I'm willing to go with you, but at what point are we going to call it a day? Let me throw it open to anybody who wants to say anything to you, Dennis. And I'm sorry it's not working. I mean, I really am, but I think there's still so many things out there that, and this was a sort of, shall we say, it was a very eclectic trial. Anybody else want to say anything to Dennis? So Mark is asking in the chat window whether you have, whether are you ARV7 positive? I can't remember. You got time out of either Abby or enzalutamide, though, didn't you?
Never been tested for ARV7, but I responded to Xtandi for a solid 18 months and then had just a modest increase in my PSA over the next 9 months.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact that you responded to Xtandi probably suggests that you're not ARV7 positive, very likely.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I say, I think you just got to decide when you're going to move on, and then we can talk about what all the options are.
I totally agree, Rick. I think it's like any treatment that you go on, you have to make that call. At what point it either works or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, some people don't respond. Some people don't respond to Xtandi or Abby, and they move on.
Right.
I do know though that your suggestion was a PSA number. I think it's more likely going to be scan related.
That's
like
okay.
how are the lesions responding? So if they're stable, okay, I can handle stable. If they're growing, we move on.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Yep. Absolutely agreed.
Dennis, I mean, given that your trial is basically, you know, Xtandi plus something, right? So I agree with this strategy. I mean, if it's you were not responding to Xtandi, the idea was to add this other stuff. Maybe you would, but I would definitely either. I mean, I agree with you. The bone scan is going to be the gold standard.
Definitely. Okay.
What about another round of chemo? Did you try docetaxel? What about cabazitaxel?
Oh, certainly that's definitely in the arsenal to go back to chemo, but it's not something I want to do next.
Right.
Just not a great experience for me the first time, even though I had great results.
I'm
But
with you on that.
yeah,
Okay, we're gonna keep trundling through here, Dennis, but
yeah.
2 weeks,
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah.
listen, it's a pleasure, but I just really just have that agreement with him. Whatever you want to make, whatever you want it to be, it's fine, but just make sure you got an agreement with him sooner rather than later. That'll give you peace of mind, I feel.
Yeah, and I understand, that there is some reluctance on his part to stop trial because they want to keep patients in trial as long as possible. But
Yeah,
I'm going to be my own advocate here.
good man. And get a t-shirt. Do you have your t-shirt yet? Do I have to stand up?
Wear that to the next meeting.
Okay, you're on. We expect you to see you wearing a t-shirt. Oh, see, John Ivory's got one. There you go. We expect you to be wearing that sweatshirt. You can get a sweatshirt up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're in sweatshirt weather. A few flurries today.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
Ken Anderson and I spoke earlier on today. And Ken, are you with us? Turn your mic on if you're with us. And
I must admit I've been nodding off because I got up quite early to go to the amethyst mine that was closed today. So I drove a couple hours and found the Forest Service has the gate locked.
oh, boo.
So
you didn't bring any amethyst back for us?
No, I couldn't even get to it. So
well, as you recall from last week, I think it was, that Ken's been having issues around getting Blue Cross Blue Shield to approve another Axumin scan, and got turned down. Thought he was going to get it done by going to Houston to MD Anderson, and they've turned it down again. And the reason we want to bring this up today here is, has anybody had experience appealing a decision to an insurance company?
Well, Rick, I can tell you I found out why it was denied. It was denied because my PSA after chemo round number 8 had declined. My PSA went down. And if you have a decrease in PSA per the company that does Axumin, Blue Earth, I talked to Blue Earth. Per their own guidelines, if your PSA is declined or has declined, you're not eligible for an Axumin scan. It's one of their broad, approvals. So, and mine, unfortunately, well, it had one rise and one decline, and that, at least from Blue Earth's perspective, is the reason that Evacor could actually decline the scan. Paul, of course, for 2 weeks has been telling me, no, it's on, don't worry about it, get your plane ticket. So even last Friday night, I had a call from MD Anderson confirming my appointment. So of course, Monday I bought tickets, and Monday afternoon they called and said there was a problem. So anyway, I'll work it out, and I'll figure out some other way to either get a scan or wait till my PSA rises, I guess. Do another round of chemo, and I don't know.
Did they say what their definition of declines is? I mean, 0.01 decline, is that a decline? What's the plus minus accuracy of PSA? How much did yours decline?
They went down 6 points.
From what to what? 0.06 points or
No, hold
real
on. Hold
points?
on. I'll answer your question. Hold on. Let me pull up my little.
Sorry. I don't need it.
No, it's okay.
Just curious what
my PSA was, 34, 30, 23, then it bounced up to 32, and then it went down to 26.
Oh, well, that sounds reasonably significant.
So, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to appeal it with Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they've declined it twice, so I don't know. I've already put in an appeal to the board of directors, their ombudsman, but I don't know that it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
In
I
terms
think,
of, no, so sorry, go ahead.
I think I'm going to have a chat with Paul tomorrow. I was going to do it tonight, but he ran out of time, so I'm going to do it tomorrow, and we're going to kind of work up another game plan.
I say this because my PSA fluctuates. It goes up 1/10 of a point, down a 1/10, up 0.05, down 1, up 2, like a Mandelbrot equation or something like that, whatever they call that series that goes up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I don't know.
So I didn't know when they say, if there's a decline. Well, I think you can argue if it's, within a certain, not much of a significant decline. What's the definition of something that's
Right.
actually a significant decline?
Well, I'm going to have a long email, and I don't mind sharing it from Blue Earth in regards to, the lady seemed pretty informed in regards to what kind of the approval process with Blue Earth's Axumin scan is. So she was going to send me an email, and I'm going to forward it to Paul, but I'm sure he's already seen it. So I don't know if I'll even forward it to Paul. I don't know. But I can share it with you guys if you want. As far as it might outline what that number is. I don't know. Probably going to say a rise or a decline, though. So, don't know. Honestly, I think Blue Cross Blue Shield is just trying to improve their bottom line before year end. They're denying all Axumin scans. So, I mean, it's not going to kill me one way or the other. At least my PSA is going down, and I'll do another round of chemo up in the Northwest on the 4th of December and see if it continues to decline.
So, Dr. Mark, we should tell you that Dr. Korn has had peer-to-peer discussions with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they still turned him down. So, you're right. It's good to get your doctor heavily involved. Dr. Korn's been heavily involved, and he's as good as anybody in the country, Paul Korn, and he didn't get it done. Yeah, and I know that Ken is well aware that the PSMA and DCFPyLs are better than the Axumin, but it was a question of trying to find a PSMA or a DCFPyL, and he couldn't find one, right, Ken?
That's true, and I know this Phoenix Molecular does these scans, but their price is $3,500 for the PMSA PET scan, and I'd rather fly to UCLA for $2,900 than pay. And I've met with the guy, and quite honestly, I didn't like him. Just person-to-person contact, I just didn't like the guy. I thought he was a used car salesman.
Are you talking about Fabio?
I am.
He's an acquired taste, but I think his heart is in the right place.
Yeah, maybe.
But I didn't think they were still in business, so I'm not sure what's going on there. And in any event, what we're talking about there are lutetium-177 trials. We're not talking about scanning trials anyway, so we have to be careful. We have to be careful about what we're saying about here.
Well, I talked to Paul about the lutetium stuff, and because I've talked to 2 guys in Canada that have flown to Hamburg and had lutetium, and it worked for a few months, but it wasn't lasting. And Paul's comment was, it's real promising, but it's not just there yet. He said he wouldn't mortgage the house to go to Hamburg and do the lutetium stuff. So they have trials at MD Anderson as well. And I think Logotheus, the head guy there, is running them. So Paul would have firsthand knowledge whether or not it was something that he would really push for, and he said not.
Ken, this is Jake. And this is just a thought, and you probably don't agree with it, but you're on your 9th chemo. you could probably maybe skip one round.
Well, my
and
question, no, Jake, my question, one of the questions I have on my question sheet, which I've already emailed to Paul, was, can I do chemo in like 5-week spacing instead of 3-week? And I don't know what he's going to say. You know, every 3 weeks now I do it, and I'm just going to ask him whether or not I can do it every 5 weeks. I
Right.
hesitate to, but I already asked the question. I sent it to him.
Well, what I was thinking was that, you know, if you gave yourself a little bit of a break, your PSA might go up, and then you qualify for the Axumin under their stupid rules.
No, I got you now. Yeah.
Just a thought.
Well, it's a good thought.
This is Carl. I did have experience with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield here in New Jersey for my initial Axumin PET scan, which was denied twice. It didn't have anything to do specifically with lowering of PSA. What was kind of weird was that they approved the PET scan, but not the infusion, the Axumin. So I had to end up paying out of pocket approximately $4,500 for the Axumin portion. After the 2 denials, we went to the more formal process, and it was ultimately approved, and I got reimbursed for the money that I paid out of pocket.
Well, that's good information, because the girl at Blue Earth said there were programs available for like reimbursement if in fact Blue Cross would not approve it. But there's, as you stated, a process you have to go through in order to get to that point. So, and I'm going to discuss that with Paul, the discussion I had with this girl from Blue Earth. So I honestly thought, I mean, they had it scanned, they had it scheduled. Paul had, he actually confirmed it.
Well, we've got to, I don't want to keep
We'll move
repeating.
along. Yeah, I understand. That's okay.
We do have to move on, and I think that's information we have. So just do your best with Paul, but there's some, and I'm sure if you want to talk more to Carl about how he went about his appeal, that Carl, did you say that was with Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you two be in touch with each other? Ken, you and Carl, do you have Carl's email address?
I do, yeah. Thanks, Rick. I will.
So you guys can talk, or I can give you telephone numbers. Just let me know if you need anything. And just to answer Dennis McGuire, my guess is that the Phoenix Molecular Imaging lutetium-177 is with R2, because he was originally trialing R2 as the contrast and not 617. So without even looking, I'm 99% sure it's going to be an R2 trial. And look, Peter's nodding. Peter's doing his Alsatian German Shepherd in the back window routine. Okay, so R2, there you go. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Joe Blanchette.
Yes, at the time that you contact me to talk to Dr. Antonarakis, and you sent me a couple emails. Within those emails, you mentioned that to the doctor that the Fritz has his liver cancer had morphed, and I'd never heard of that term before. I know what morph means, but I didn't know what it meant in relation to the liver and prostate cancer. Can you explain that a bit, please?
I will do my best, but then I'm going to call in Professor Geller, because I think, oh, he says no, he doesn't want to talk about this. Okay, so going back.
I'm happy to, Joel, I'm happy to do more research on this, but I don't want to talk off the top of my head.
Okay, well, let me tell you what I know, Joel. Going back, I'm thinking to 2012 or 2013. I used to attend every year a prostate cancer research day at UCSF. And it was pretty technical. It was as technical as the PCF thing that was a couple of weeks ago that Len and Herb summarized for us. But I remember in one session, and I don't remember which year, or maybe it was 2015, Eric Small getting up and saying that they had now definitely come to the conclusion that prostate cancer changes its, I don't know how to say this correctly, and scientifically I may be wrong, but basically it changes its formulation.
So, I mean, what it does is it changes its gene expression pattern over time and the proteins that it makes. And this is essentially why it becomes castration sensitive versus castration resistant, because different genes have been overexpressed or mutated so that we're no longer sensitive. So that's maybe what they mean. And for example, metastases may have a different genetic profile than the primary tumor. That's also been described. I mean, there's an experiment I want to do, but I'm not a cancer biologist, so I don't know if I can get the tissue to do it. But it would be to use this technique called RNA-seq to just look at how heterogeneous is a tumor.
Have you seen the work by Peter North, I think it is, at University of Washington?
I haven't looked particularly, no, but I didn't find anything that would answer that question.
I'll send it to you because he's done some really good. Is it Peter North? No, it's not Peter North. It's Phil North. I'll send it to you. It's good stuff. And the conclusion that came out of UW is that prostate cancer tumors within the same person, the metastatic tumors are all homogeneous. So whilst the tumor is very heterogeneous between men, when it metastasizes in one man, it doesn't matter where you take the lesion from, it's going to look very much like another lesion in another part of the body. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, you and Dr. Antonarakis knew this was extremely serious because the Dr. Antonarakis' response was "Yikes!"
Right.
And a week later, he was dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So you recognize that as very serious.
Right. Well, two reasons why. One is, I mean, there's so much going on with Fraz, God rest his soul, but one is that he probably had genetic mutations that nobody bothered to test for, which just infuriates me. And most likely he did have a Lynch syndrome mutation because of his family history of colon cancer. And it just upsets me so much. And the other is because when at the end stage, when the metastasis gets to the liver, there isn't a lot you can do. Liver metastasis that's seen early in the disease is treatable because some people will metastasize to the liver rather than the bone. It's not a great sign, but it is treatable. It's treatable in different ways. But when you see that it gets to the liver, it's not good. I mean, you know, we saw it with Fraz and we saw it with Foodie, God rest his soul. And you know, we've seen it with other people too. So that is really the sign. But what morph means is that the cancer adapts to its environment and changes, and usually it looks much more like a neuroendocrine and responds much more like a neuroendocrine tumor. So usually when we talk about it morphing, it means it's morphed into something that's more like and treated like a neuroendocrine tumor. That's why we see people using carboplatin late in the game.
And more lethal.
And much more lethal.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to follow up on that? I mean, it isn't always necessarily so. I mean, look, they used carboplatin on Peter because he had a very unusual tumor in a very unusual place, and the doctor made the decision that maybe that tumor would respond to carboplatin. So it isn't always the case that they're using it because it's a morphed tumor, but clearly Peter has something going on which is very unusual, probably because of this combination of MSH6 and BRCA2. And so it was a good candidate also because his disease is not the regular common garden carcinoma disease. Is that fair to say, Mr. Kafka?
Yes, very fair. My doctor calls me an outlier.
We call you an outrigger when you're in that canoe of yours, not an outlier. And by the way, we love the way your hair's coming back in. Is it curlier or straighter?
I think it's about the same.
Okay, all right. You're looking like the Peter we know and love. Jake, notice that. Okay. I'm going to keep moving along and go to Mark, Dr. Mark.
So I have a quick one. Concerned obviously about the effect of ADT and abiraterone on bones. And my docs are now convinced that I need to do something about hyperparathyroidism and go ahead and get those tumors out. Has anybody else had the two together or know of any reasons why, other than the potential risk for osteoporosis, I should be concerned?
You're talking about the combination of abiraterone plus Lupron?
Well, right. That brings the bone, puts a bone health at risk, but then the hyperparathyroidism with high levels of PTH also are eating away at your bone. So they're saying two things going on. You got to address the hyperparathyroidism.
So you're asking, has anybody else had hyperparathyroidism with whilst taking abiraterone and Lupron?
Right.
I haven't encountered anyone else. Does anyone else have any experience with bad parathyroid numbers?
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark. I do know that calcium levels are regulated by parathyroid glands.
Right.
Right.
Right. Very, very good. So what happens is when your calcium is low, parathyroid hormone goes up by chewing up bone. If you have very high levels of calcium in your blood, you can feel like you have ADT on board without doing ADT. You have those same symptoms. So the fatigue, depression, mental fog are symptoms of both ADT and hyperparathyroidism. So with that and the increased risk of osteoporosis and falls, I figure I need to get that taken care of.
Offline, and I'll call you. I'll tell you some. I've got some good parathyroid stories. Let me ask you. Have you had your bone density measured?
Yes, I'm at the low end because of hypothyroidism before. I'm at the low end, but it's all normal. No osteopenia. I decided I wanted to get that done before starting both ADT and abiraterone.
Smart.
So that's okay. I'm not on any supplementation. I've got 3 more months left, and hopefully, if the PSA stays low, I will say goodbye to ADT for a while.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to say goodbye to this group.
No, I'm learning so much. I feel like I'm getting more out of these groups than I would by going to a CMA conference. I just don't get the credit hours.
Okay, all right. See if you can get us legitimized and certified, and then we'll have a whole bunch of doctors in this group. Okay. Let me go on to Rusty. But we got to make it I know you said 4 or 5 minutes ago. I made it relatively quick, though, Russ.
It can be quicker than that.
Okay.
So very quickly, I'm 6 months, just under 6 months out of ADT and radiation, and I'm having lumps in my breast now, and I'm also being diagnosed for lupus. I was wondering if anyone else had the same experience.
When did this all come about?
The past week.
Oh boy. Well, has anybody, before I give you my comments, has anybody else had any issue that might be either lupus related or related to the lumps in the breast? Or thoughts?
So we're not talking breast enlargement, we're actually talking lumps?
I had partial enlargement during my, but no tenderness. But now, right under the, especially the left nipple and a little bit on the right, is starting to get like a little cyst below it.
Okay.
Has anybody looked at it?
That has not been looked at, but the lupus is in, you know, I've had my tests and I got issues with my hands and trigger finger, and so that's been being worked on. But the breast issue came up since the last visit, but I am seeing a doctor tomorrow and Monday.
Good, good.
Okay,
Are they
so
planning to do breast ultrasound? If it's a cyst, generally that would be something of no merit. During my internship, I got in a fight with my attending because the guy had a lump and he refused to take the guy to the OR to do this. So in the room, using local anesthetic, we did a breast biopsy and it was cancer. Do not let a solid lump last forever. That's something you want to follow up and do the ultrasound. And if necessary, if it starts going down, that's fine. But if it persists, that's something that should be biopsied.
I agree. And like I say, I have an appointment to have it looked at. It just popped up in the last week and a half. It is concerning. Everything, you know, when you have cancer, every bump, bruise, you know, everything is a concern. So.
okay, so two things, Russ. First of all, have you ever had germline testing?
Genetic testing?
Yeah, for inherited disease.
Yes, I have.
And you're clear?
Yes, it was negative.
Okay. Because it makes me think, you know, between prostate cancer and now with these lumps in the breast, that maybe you're carrying a genetic, something genetic. The only thing I can offer you are resources here. We have a very close relationship with the Male Breast Cancer Coalition. And through that, we have access to some of the best male breast cancer guys in the docs in the country. And I'd be happy to arrange for you to talk to somebody like Ben Park, who's just outstanding. He's now at Vanderbilt. He was at Hopkins, he's now at Vanderbilt. So if there's any question, we can definitely help you out there. But I agree 1000% with Mark, and even without connecting you to Peggy Miller and some of the guys over there, they're all going to say get it checked out sooner rather than later. As far as the lupus is concerned, again we've been trying to put together a lupus group now for about 6 months. I have a couple of really good lupus advocates that I can tie you into. No docs there, but we have good lupus advocates. I will tell you that your trigger finger issue is, I told you before, something I'm really familiar with, and has gotten worse since I was in my 50s. And it bothered me intensely when it first happened. I remember when it first happened around 2002, 2003. And now it's just something I live with. And a lot of times I have to use my other hand to open my fingers. And it just happens all the time. I mean, when you least expect it. It's not that painful. So
Mine is constant, but I'm gonna get a shot tomorrow, a steroid shot, and then follow up on Monday.
Okay. Why just report in, and if we can provide you with any resources, let us know. But push that doc to follow up with a Dr. Mark, can they tell, will an ultrasound help, or does he really need a needle?
Absolutely. If it's a cyst, what we would do is just drain the fluid out. If it's smooth in the cyst, I would just watch it and see if it goes away. But you can drain the fluid and get cells from that. If it's a solid lesion, then they may want to remove it. Now, in women, we know that as hormones fluctuate, you can develop breast lumps. How long did you say you were off ADT?
My last shot was July 3rd.
So I think by now that should not be just a hormone.
I've also been getting hot flashes the last few days about the same time that this popped up. So I'm thinking it may be some type of cross, where testosterone's coming up, and I don't know.
Yeah, again, if it's a cyst, they may want to get cells from it, and that tends not to be something as concerning. If it's a solid lesion, that may be something they want to follow up with, more likely to follow up with biopsy.
Okay. That's all I got, guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, our thoughts are with you. And Rusty, do me a favor, just let me know during the week when you get some of this back, and we'll help you however we can.
Okay. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Jim Barnes, you've got an update for us, right?
I do. I've had my last of 6 radiation treatments today, and my wife and kids got me balloons and everything.
Oh, wow. How nice.
Isn't that nice?
Fantastic.
So, and my PSA was down to 0.3.
Oh, good.
Down from 13 originally. So been on Eligard and enzalutamide for I was supposed to get another Eligard shot today, but I postponed it for a week. But so I've been on it for 3 months. So it's all good. And I want to thank everybody for helping shape my view on prostate cancer and understanding of it and everything else. You guys are great. It's been a huge help.
It's our pleasure. And I heard on the Jungle Telegraph that you and David had a good discussion this week.
We did. David, thanks so much. It was really, really helpful. Because it's not only the disease you got to get through, it's all your surrounding issues in life.
Yeah, glad I can help you, Jim.
Huge. Thank you.
Russ?
Yep.
Did you have your hand up? Did you want to say something?
I just put in chat. I have to take off. I have a backgammon challenge with my wife at 8 o'clock. So.
Okay. Go. All right.
Take care, guys.
So, Jim, it's a very. You were a runner, weren't you?
I was not. I'm a racquetball player, golfer, tennis ball player, all that.
Well, I was a runner. I ran 9 marathons, and I think that was one of the best preparations I ever had for dealing with prostate cancer, because you have to take the long view with this, and you have to get your head into a spot where you see it as being a long-term disease, that you're going to manage for the rest of your life. And you have to be thinking of it in those terms. And there is no, I don't think there's any real immediate gratification. I think if you respond to the lows and the highs, you can make yourself very, very crazy. And I'm not saying, I'm not critical of the people that do, but I wish they didn't. I wish that the people that do respond that way could grasp the fact that they've got to take a much longer view of the disease. And some of us do. And I think it makes our lives easier than responding to PSA going down a little bit, PSA going up a little bit, or within your, a little bit is within your own norm. So, you know, 0.1 or 0.2 can throw some people. For other people, it might be 5, 6, 10, whatever it is, because their PSA is much higher. But I always feel we should be looking at the trend in the PSA. And, you know, without naming, without going to particular people, some people on this call handle it well, some do not. And so the earlier you can get your head into that place, the better it is. And if you feel there's somebody on this call that you like the way they handle their disease, let us know. We'll connect you with them, just like we connected you with David.
Yeah, Jim, I can second that, although I'm probably in the list on the other side. But I can second that comment.
Yeah.
I have a question related.
If you hold on, Peter.
Okay.
Hold on, Peter. Let me just say, because I want to come to you. But if you'd like to learn how to get mental quickly, I'd be happy to put you in touch with Ken. but you know, Peter is great at this. I mean, Peter is a pro in terms of attitude. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, Jim, this is kind of off the wall, but do you have any more connection with Tony DeVos Soprano, or has he dropped off our radar?
I talked to him offline the first night he was on the call to give him some insight and direction, and that's, you know, from what I knew of the group. And but then he got on the call the following week, and I haven't heard from him since.
Okay, I'll give him shoot him an email and see what he's up to.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely harder when you have to explain what PSA stands for and what it is for somebody who has prostate cancer. That's for sure.
Okay, we've got 3 guys to get through. 2 minutes. I'm sorry. We'll give you 2 minutes each, but we'll give you priority next time, whenever next time is, and I'm not even sure when next time is. Peter Monaco. And you never ask for time. I feel so bad.
No, it's okay. I have just a dumb question. So I completed 13 months of ADT 2 months ago, and everything's good. I got some results yesterday. PSA is still undetectable, which is good. I noticed my testosterone went from 7 to 43 in 1 month. How quickly does testosterone typically rise? That's my question. Generic question. Coming off of ADT, obviously.
Right. And how long is it since you've been off the ADT?
The end of September was when my program ended. I had a 3-month Lupron shot in what would have been July, August, September. That was it. And so I've been off it technically for 2 months, just about.
Okay. There's actually a lot of literature on how quickly testosterone comes back. There's very little literature on what happens to your PSA, but there is on testosterone. And unfortunately, the bottom line is it's very, very anecdotal. A lot of it depends on age. A lot of it depends on how long you were on the ADT for. How long were you on ADT for beforehand?
13 months. 13 months.
Right. So, the rough rule of thumb is that it should come back to your norms within about 2 years. So I would say that if it wore off in September and by now you're showing 43, it's a good sign and it's coming back. And when you test again, maybe 3 months from now, you should expect a significantly high number. But who else has got experience with this and would like to comment?
3 to 4 months was my experience 3 times. It came back.
To your normal range? Your previously came back to your previously normal range?
I came back to about 300 plus, but I never did a baseline before I got into prostate cancer. So, but it was good enough for me. 300 plus. Took 3 or 4 months to do it 3 times with about a year and a half of ADT.
So I guess my question is, I know it's good for your testosterone to recover for your health, and I do feel better. I can tell I feel better overall. But on the flip side of that, does now your cancer have that testosterone to feed on again? And does that?
Watch your PSA. Watch it like a hawk. Test it every month.
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm doing every 28 days, actually.
Good.
All right. Well, that was my question. Thank you, Rick. And I was thinking you were talking to me before about the positive attitude thing. So I was about to withdraw this question.
No, we're not talking to you. And I just want to publicly say thank you so much for picking up the extra work on the YouTube channel. We so appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure and privilege to help you out, Rick. Believe me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, John Ivory, and then Carl.
All right, related question. Last week we talked about the usefulness of testosterone tests. Finally got one, and I've been on Lupron for 9 months and Abby for 8 months, and my testosterone's at 49. Now, I'm not sure how bad that is, and I was at the end of a 3-month Lupron shot. I got a new shot the same day I got that test, but how low should my testosterone go with ADT?
Well, I would say I would expect it to be lower, but the peer expert on this subject is Ken Anderson, who's still with us. So Ken, would you like to offer your pearls of wisdom to John Ivory on this?
John, I would say I agree with Rick. How long have you been on Abby?
8 months.
And you're on 500 milligrams? 2 pills?
I'd have to look. I can't remember.
That's the standard, 25, 250, 250. So 500 milligrams with 5 milligrams.
Actually, no, I take 4 of them, so I'm on 1,000.
Of Abby?
Yeah, I've got them right here. I take 4 250s per day.
Yeah, that's normal. That's the normal dose is 4 times 250, Ken.
Well, Paul has me on 500, so 2 pills. My testosterone, though, on Lupron alone, in the first 3 years, averaged right around 12 to 15. And even that, I thought, excuse me, was high. And Cameron and I in Australia would always go back and forth about, and he talked to Ben Tran, I'd talk to Paul, and Rick's right. It's always been one of those things. If we're blocking testosterone with these bloody drugs, why, the lower it goes, the better it is. So Paul always said, don't worry, 12's okay. You know, I think the standard is like 50. If you're under 50, they say it's okay. But if you get below that, it's way better. So when I added Abby, my T levels, and they have been down for the last 11 months below 1. So I don't know why you're getting the results you're getting. That's just my 2 cents. I'd ask your doc.
And it's your PSA is still less than 0.1?
My PSA is 0.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get another shot in 6 weeks. I was just it was interesting because I met with the doc and the results weren't there yet, and then the nurse told me they came in and they seemed high, so they should test me again. But I'm glad I asked him to test me because they hadn't brought it up yet.
No, I mean, 49 is pretty high. I mean, again, when I was diagnosed, less than 50 was the standard. Today, it's less than 30. So what you may want to do, what are you getting? Did you say Eligard?
No, I'm Abiraterone.
No, what's the LHRH drug you're getting?
I'm sorry, Lupron.
Lupron. So you may talk to Alicia about switching to a different LHRH. Sometimes it can work. You know, it might be. Maybe you should try on Firmagon and see if you get a better response to that. Anybody else have any input on this?
I'm seeing a few things in the comments. Thanks, Mark.
Some people also need to take it closer so that they assume it's every month. And if you really want to keep it low, it's every 4 weeks. When we use this in women to suppress gonadotropins, some people every 4 weeks is not enough. So it may actually be 3.5 weeks to get it down. Any of them are going to work and lower it if you're maintaining a sufficient level. If you go an extra couple of days and don't get it on time, when you get that next dose of Lupron, you may get a flare of gonadotropins releasing again, and that could cause a burst in testosterone. If you're getting it monthly, every time you get a dose, if you're one who metabolizes it quickly, you'll get a burst of testosterone every time you take Lupron.
Yeah, I get it every 3 months, but I was at the tail end of the 3 months, so I'll see, I guess, in 6 weeks whether that holds water or not.
Well, if it's up at, if you're up at 49, you may ask Alicia about whether you ought to do it a week or so early.
Yeah. Good, thank you. We can move on because I know we have other people.
Right, John. Look, just one question. The Lupron shot you got this time was for how long?
For 3 months. I got lucky. Somehow my nurse, who's really good, found that the pharmacy had a little stash that they hadn't told her about, because otherwise they might not have had it.
Okay. All right. And last but definitely not least, Mr. Foreman.
Oh my goodness. So, well, I guess I'm going to have to say I don't expect a response. I'm just going to throw it out and we'll talk next week because there's just no time left. And I had my latest blood work on Friday. I got my results yesterday. It made me very emotional because of the fact that the PSA has risen again, and it was my birthday yesterday. So maybe I shouldn't have looked at the results, but it was quite upsetting. And in talking to the oncologist today, he mentioned about possibly staying on the olaparib that I'm on and adding Abby, which I had been on at one point. And I know there's a profound trial that is specifically addressing combining the two. So we'll talk next time. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, so just tell us what was your PSA?
1.11.
1.11. And the last time before 0.35?
0.68.
Oh, 0.68 in 1020, yeah. Yeah, we definitely will talk next time. I'll make sure that you get up, you'll get up first once we get through the new people, Carl. And we'll chat about it.
Yep.
I'm sorry. We got all these
No,
people.
no. Happy belated birthday, Carl.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, happy birthday.
You're exactly 1 week after me, Carl.
Ah,
I'm on the 16th. You're on the 23rd, right?
yes.
So we're
A birthday present like this, I don't need, with the increasing PSA, but that's what it is.
I think adding Abby's a great idea, though. If you responded to Abby the first time, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Well, I was on it for the first time for 6 months, and it did not control the PSA as they hoped. So who knows? But anyway, thank you.
I'm just looking here quickly. I don't have it. I don't have that. I don't have. How old are you?
I just turned 66.
Oh, just turned 66. You're a babe. Okay. Okay. All right. And now I've got it in. I didn't have your age in there. How about that? All right. I'm even going to put your birthday, 11/23. I won't forget that. You're a week after me. How can I forget that? All right, guys, listen. Very happy and a very safe Thanksgiving to everybody. However you're going to enjoy, however you're going to celebrate this year, try to relax and enjoy. I'm sure you will. And I think the next meeting, we decided, Peter, didn't we decide didn't I write to you yesterday, the 1st and the 15th?
Yes, you did.
Yes. Okay, both Peters, Peter and Peter. Okay. So the next meeting is next week on Tuesday. And we'll send out a reminder. It's going to be, as I said, an unusual month because the Tuesday meetings will be the 1st and the 3rd, the same as the Monday meetings. And we'll have to get out the room. We'll have to clear the room for the caregivers to come in at the end of the hour. So we won't be able to run over. So the pressure is on me. Okay. Happy.
I just want to quickly give thanks to Rick for Thanksgiving and the other people everyone on the call, but especially the people who are the moderators. Really appreciate it.
A pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Thank you guys for letting me join.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Come back, Regina, next Tuesday.
Russ listened to the end of you guys. It was wonderful.
Okay.
Good.
Bye.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody. Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Okay. See you, Rick.